Before I jump into this conversation, let me start with a very simple but uncomfortable church leadership reality. Most churches don't fail because they're led by unmotivated pastors. They fail because too many pastors are leading accidentally in places where intentionality matters most. Okay, accidental leadership. That is not good leadership. I don't know if you've heard that phrase before, okay? Accidental leadership, it isn't something that any of us choose. Like nobody wakes up and says, you know what, I think I'm gonna lead by reacting to everything and designing nothing. Nobody says that. But it happens all the time. But it happens quietly, very subtly, consistently. And it happens because of pressure. The pressure that builds up during the week, the pressure from people, the pressure from expectations that we did not ask for, and for systems that maybe we didn't even build. I mean, pressure from Sunday, which has the audacity to return every 7 days like clockwork, and when pressure becomes the fuel of our leadership, it pushes us into accidental patterns. Let's talk about what this looks like for just a few minutes, right? Every church that I work with is filled with good people and good pastors who care deeply about their mission. I haven't met a single pastor who had zero passion for their church, for God, for the kingdom, for their community. I've never met a pastor who just didn't care, right? Passion is never or very rarely the problem. Passion is often actually easy for pastors. Passion is kind of natural for people like us in these roles. But passion without intention creates a lot of pressure. Passion can burn really hot, but intentional planning is what creates results, right? Not just passion. So in case like you've never heard of this word accidental leadership, or if you're trying to decipher if you are, or if maybe you have a staff member that is leading this way, accidentally leading, let's kind of unpack it a little bit, okay? Accidental leadership is what happens when you when you explain your reactions instead of planning your steps. When you inherit priorities from urgency instead of choosing them. You hope that people just get it, right? Instead of designing experiences that move them to understand. Accidental leadership happens when you rely on talent and effort instead of systems that can carry the mission forward. Accidental leadership happens when you assume people are going to figure out next steps instead of clarifying it for them. If you celebrate what's easy to measure instead of what actually matters, you end up being an accidental leader. And listen, here's a secret to success, and you probably sense this already. Pastors don't drift to intentionality, right? We drift to accident. That's what we all drift to, because accidental leadership requires really nothing from us. Intentional leadership, on the other hand, requires a lot. In some cases, it feels like it requires everything. If you're like most pastors that I work with, right, there's a kind of a quiet gap that you feel every week, a gap between kind of the church that you want to lead and the church that you are actually leading. Like you want clarity, but you just sense you have a lot of complexity. You would prefer systems, but you feel like you're swimming in spontaneity and urgency. Like you would love consistent forward momentum, but the weekly grind, and it is a grind, it keeps dragging your feet and your whole self backwards. Like I have coached pastors who have told me it felt like they were working harder than ever with less to show for it. Maybe you feel that way. And it's not because you or these people that I mentioned lacked vision or skill, but they were unintentionally reinforcing accidental patterns. And patterns always win. Okay, our repeated patterns basically create an accidental system, and systems always win. There is a solution though, right? And you may find this surprisingly encouraging. You don't have to have a corporate brain to succeed in this. Like you don't have to become an organizational ninja. You don't have to have the right kind of Enneagram number or a different personality type. And I love this. You don't have to be more like a CEO. What you really just need is a new pattern. What you need is intentional leadership. It is built one decision at a time. For instance, You begin to choose your priorities before the week chooses them for you. You begin to design ministry experiences instead of just inheriting them as they've always been. You begin to build systems that make the mission easier and more predictable. You begin clarifying next steps instead of just assuming everybody believes or sees the way that you do. You begin to measure the things that really matter, not just what's, easy or simple. The moment you begin to do some of those things, the pressure starts to drop, not because the work gets easier, but because now the work gets clearer. Clarity is a pressure reliever, and systems are pressure relievers. Intentionality is a pressure reliever. Let me just give you very practically the simplest way that you can put some action to this. Just pick one ministry area and then make it intentional. That's it. And I know that could sound complicated, but it doesn't have to be. Just pick one thing. Maybe it's a new guest experience process. Maybe it's kind of your Sunday planning, your Sunday service plan. It could be a volunteer onboarding system. Or maybe you want to go a little bigger. Maybe it's a discipleship pathway for you. But just pick one thing and ask one question. As is the question, what would this look like if it were intentionally designed and not accidentally inherited? That's it. What would this thing, this discipleship pathway, what would our Sunday services look like? What would our volunteer onboarding look like if it was intentionally designed and not just accidentally inherited, not just done the way we always do it because it's the way we've always done it? And if you want to take that one step, just take that one kind of step towards that one answer. Take a step and figure out what you could do differently, how you could be more intentional. And really, one step is often enough to begin shifting, and here's our word again, a pattern. That one step begins to create a new pattern. And shifting a pattern is enough to shift an entire church, sometimes an entire community. I mean, you've probably heard me say that, I believe 2026 can be the year of intention for pastors and for churches. And I don't say that because it's kind of catchy, but because churches, they just don't drift into health. Churches, we drift all the time towards accidental leadership. And that drift, right, produces confusion. But intention produces clarity. You know what clarity does? It produces movement, like discipleship. If your church kind of feels stagnant or stuck, or if you feel like you're working harder than ever with less to show for it, if your leadership feels more reactive than proactive, that's accidental leadership. And it's accidental leadership trying to tell you something. And by the way, it is more common than you think. But you deserve more than that. I think that your people deserve more than that. Your mission definitely deserves more than accidental leadership. So here's the deal, right? This week, choose intentionally in that one place. Just make one shift. Start a brand new pattern can begin. Take one thing, take one shift, design one new pattern, design one step instead of inheriting something from an accidental pattern. And if you really want some help building intentional systems and patterns that actually can carry the mission forward, that's the work that I do every day with pastors through my strategic kind of leadership partnerships or my leadership labs. But listen, whether you ever want to work with me or not, I just want you to choose intention because your church will feel it, your leadership will feel it, and you can begin to breathe with some peace and some confidence again.